At the very height of the COVID-19 pandemic, Leslie Anderson-Rutland braced herself against the words no woman or man wants to hear. You have breast cancer. As the world continues to spin in a never-ending whirlwind of fear and uncertainty caused by a once-in-a-generation and quickly evolving virus, Leslie lay alone, literally and figuratively, in her hospital bed, recovering from a double mastectomy, readying herself for the battle yet ahead. Join me in a fighter if ever there was one, Leslie Anderson-Rutland, in the arena right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Leslie, hello, my friend.
How are you?
I am wonderful. You know, our relationship began in my previous role at Chicago State Foundation. You were a board, an executive member of the board finance committee. So we worked very closely together, and I got to know you. And I adore you. You know I do, and even more after the grace and fearlessness you've carried yourself with and sharing with the world. It's not the easiest thing to do, but you've done that. So let's begin at the beginning.
Okay.
When and where were you born?
I was born June 24th, 1970, so I'm a summer baby in Akron, Ohio.
Tell me about the woman and the man who created you.
Wow. I could go back generations because I feel like I have a thread.
We
from
got a
both
minute
of them.
until our floor manager, Lewis, gives us a no. Go on, begin.
My mother is an educator. She's retired from Golden Apple Foundation. And my father is also an educator. He retired from the University of Illinois at Chicago. He actually came here in '90 and started the Center for Urban Educational Research. So he's been in education for all of my life, but he actually started on Wall Street. He was the first black analyst at Bache & Company, which is now Prudential. So I've got finance in my father's from Jamaica. My mother's from Barbados. They met in New York.
Come on.
I have people talk about my skin all the time. I said that comes from my heritage.
Come
so
on.
I've got the best combination of the Caribbean flowing through my veins.
Okay. And you have two siblings.
I do.
A brother who's 14 months older?
He is.
And a younger sister.
Older sister.
Older
She's
sister.
5 years older.
Oh, you're the baby.
I am the baby.
And if I were to describe your relationship with your sister especially as very close, would that be an understatement?
For sure. For sure.
Talk about it.
Yeah, my sister and I used to, as a kid, if her favorite color was orange, next year my favorite color was orange. Like, I wanted to be my sister for years, and she was the cool one, and I think I remember having a crush on her boyfriend, like the whole night.
Oh, you wanted, yes,
I was all, when she would leave the house, I would sneak in her room and try on her stuff, and so yeah, she went to Howard, I went to Hampton. She went to Medill. I went to Northwest Kellogg. So I've followed her quite, a little bit distantly, but she's always been one of my North Stars, and has a beautiful daughter, my niece, who is 18 and graduating, going to college next year. And my sister moved back to Chicago just before the pandemic, which I am eternally grateful for, not only because she was there for me, but my parents are in their late 80s. And so she's been a tremendous help.
That's some good genetics.
Tremendous. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my sister and I are very close.
You went on to earn an MBA from the prestigious Kellogg School of Management at Northwest University. You joined BMO.
I did.
And again, those watching, I keep a few notes Leslie, I'm telling it. Leslie Anderson-Rutland, when I was literally getting mic'd, took the notes, and as she used to do with my finance reports at Chicago State, she went, I'm going to make a few corrections.
I want you to be on
and you
your
would say
game.
to me, and that's what you would say to me, I want you to be great. And I believe you, even now, that
Even now.
relationship. And I count on it. So you joined BMO in 1996. Became VP of the Emerging Markets Group in 2000. In 2003, you moved over to Fifth Third, where you were vice president and team lead. In 2009, you returned to BMO as a senior vice president for a total of 9.5 years. In 2019, you became the U.S. and international head of workplace experience technology, then the global head of enterprise technology. And days before we just sat down to have this taping, you were named BMO's national head of U.S. wealth management, customer and employee strategy. So commitment, success, hard work, began with your family. It is moved through your career. This is a smart, career. And every time
When I hear it, it's like...
Yes, and that's why I was like, I'm glad, and I wrote most of it right, and I'm like, yes. So before I go on, though, in addition to that, a very smart career that many people will look on paper and go, oh, that's what you want. You've got the right degrees, you are in finance, and now, I'm going to say it, just from my vantage point, wealth management, that's the hard, that's
it.
That's it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
How many boards, on top of everything you're doing, do you sit on presently?
Technically, it's 6, but really it's 7.
Does that seem logical to you?
It's hard, but keep in mind that it doesn't feel like work. These boards are part of what gives me life. And so...
And some of those boards are one goal.
1871, the Cafe Group, After School Matters, obviously Chicago State
These
University
are significant nonprofits.
Foundation.
It's not an easy lift.
Yeah, and then I sit on our corporate board, BMO Capital Markets and Clearpool.
Okay. While you were building this spectacular career and volunteering like you don't need sleep, you met, if we're going to talk about it, Leslie, we're going to do it. You met, fell in love with, and married one Dr. Lewis Rutland in January of 2019. Tell me 2 things. 1, tell me how you met the good doctor, and 2, tell me about the wedding that I have seen pictures of. And so, begin.
So, honestly, I didn't think I was going to get married. My line sister called me. I was in St. Louis taking my braids down, and she said, I got somebody for you. I know you don't do blind dates, but please just trust me. It's this man, I moved right next door, and he's divorced, but he is so devoted to his kids. Leslie, he is somebody you need to meet. So I was like, Now blind dates aren't the same that they used to be, because now you can look on Facebook and
you
see
can do a full dossier.
Monster or not monster,
Yes.
all of
Come
that.
on, all
right,
of it,
all
yes.
of that. So I looked on Facebook and I was like, okay, all right.
All right.
His first picture that I saw was him and Magic Johnson hanging out. And I was like, oh,
Just
so
chilling.
he's trying to be flexing and all of that.
All right. I see you.
Yep. So
But it was working.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I said fine. She gave him my number and gave me his. I think he texted me first and said, is now a good time to talk? And then we talked a long time.
In the first conversation?
In the first conversation, it was, so we had marathon conversations before the first date. And then we had the first date, and then we had marathon conversations. Matter of fact, I was just telling my girlfriend that Lewis told me, he texted me, I should say, after our first date, his professed love for me. He was like, I'm about to lose my man card. And I can't find those texts to save my life. I said, I know
You need to find those texts.
I said, it need to go down with me.
Come on.
I know. So, but yeah, he said it was love at
He
first sight.
knew.
Yeah. And he said he didn't think he was going to get remarried either. But we just clicked.
So from the time that you went on that first date to what you were going to tell me about, because I've seen the pictures.
Yes.
What was the distance between that?
We met in October of 2015. It was actually a month after his mother had passed.
My goodness.
Which that will be important later as we discuss. And then, so 4 years.
And the wedding? Where'd you have it? In the church? In the city?
I brought the church.
Tell them what
to
you
my
brought
wedding.
them. Where'd you bring them?
We went to Cabo.
Sandy, everything that you imagine if you close your eyes and go, if I were to have a beautiful destination wedding.
It was, so I never dreamed of a wedding. So I had to get a wedding planner, and I didn't have any. She's like, well, what's the
You
theme?
weren't the little girl who would.
No, I dreamt of my house, my car, my career, and I just never dreamed that just wasn't my dream. So I had a lot of help, and matter of fact, I didn't have any bridesmaids, and he didn't have any. And at the wedding, Pastor Wright, my dear second father,
Jeremiah Wright.
Jeremiah A. Wright Jr.
Come on. Right. Yes, ma'am.
Said, who's going to carry the ring, Leslie? And I was like, oh, my sister can. And so it just so happened, so the girls I didn't have our 3 girls as bridesmaids. We gave them 4 pictures of dresses. They all picked the same dress. My sister picked a dress that matched, and she didn't even know. And we used my nephew as the ring bearer, and Lewis was like, well, I might as well have a best man, so that was his brother. But I wanted people to be comfortable. I didn't, people ask me, is it okay to wear white? Yeah, because let me just tell you, nobody's going to be looking at you.
Okay. Oh, yes, because I saw,
right.
You won. You're like,
I am not worried.
I'm not worried.
I'm not worried. So so people came in linen shorts. Yeah. It was the whole gamut.
Yes. So I'm going to continue on the spectacular journey that has been your life. In April of 2020, 1 month after we officially accepted that there was a pandemic, you were recognized by Savoy magazine as one of the most influential Black executives in corporate America. That is about a year plus after your marriage, after your wedding. What happened on July 27th, 2020?
I was at work. Actually, we were preparing to hang the murals. So you know that there were riots from George Floyd's murder. And we commissioned After School Matters to take the plywood that we used to cover up the broken glass downtown.
Because we were in the middle of 2 pandemics.
Two pandemics, absolutely. And they were about to hang the mural, and my doctor, who was one of my dearest friends, called me and said, Leslie is cancer.
What was your feeling in that moment?
I was devastated. He was like, "Do you want me to call Lewis?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can't tell him." And the honesty was, what I was thinking. His mother died of cancer. So how was he gonna receive this? Like his wife, we've been married a year.
We're honeymoon.
Yeah. And the first thing that Lewis said to me was, "Yeah, my mother died of cancer, and my wife is surviving it." Like he just, there was no question in his mind that her story was going to be mine.
And that's powerful in that moment.
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
Then, so I want to make sure I'm clear. So all of this is happening against the backdrop of dual pandemics, a world that has a once-in-a-generation pandemic, finally catching up with the other pandemic with the murder of George Floyd. You are a year plus, so you're still a newlywed in your wedding, a career that is, and you have to go through this as much as you have Lewis. We weren't letting people in the hospital rooms or things that we took for granted. Walk me through from the moment you were diagnosed, and you had a double mastectomy, yes?
I did.
Walk me through some of the key moments in that experience and that journey.
Yeah, so my doctor, My gynecologist is the one who really pushed. Matter of fact, so I got him. I called him on a Friday night and said I felt something, and I said I'm not really sure what to do. He said I know what we're going to do. We're going to have a mammogram, and the mammogram didn't show anything. The ultrasound didn't show anything, and he said to the doctors, like, no, we didn't find anything is not an answer. She felt something. We are going to find it. It's either going to be benign or it's going to be malignant.
But we're fine.
And I say that because it's so important to have doctors that advocate for you behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I was really concerned about my treatment. He had recommended either Loyola, UIC, I think, and Northwestern.
Okay.
And we called Northwestern, and they couldn't see me for a month. And so I remember talking to my pastor saying,
Because we're in the pandemic.
We're in a pandemic. I told my pastor when I was driving home from hearing I had cancer, I said, I don't know if I'm anchored enough for this.
Ooh.
You know, we have been in a pandemic, and I hadn't been to church in months, and I dialed that forward, and a man who went to medical school with Lewis called and said, I can get Leslie an entire team in the next 72 hours if she wants to come to Loyola. And I said to Lewis, I really need, at this juncture, I need a black woman. Because, you know, all of the microaggression, I couldn't deal with any of that. And
yes, everything we're feeling, you're now having to take that into the battle of your
oh
life.
yeah,
We
I
were
had to
all
think about
unwrapping in real time.
I wanted a black woman head of my team. I wanted a diverse team. I wanted friction in that team because the best outcomes come when you have that. It is. So when I said I didn't think I was anchored, Lewis met the doctor 20 plus years ago that was going to call me and say, I have a team for you that is led by a black woman who's also my soror, who also knows umpteen people in my village. And she said, I heard about your wedding. This is not the end of your story. That was the first thing she said to me. And then she said, she gave Lewis her personal cell phone, and she said, if you have any questions that you don't get answered, you call me.
And you divine is no
Divine
other way to say
intervention.
it. Divine order, divine appointment, divine intervention. You go through the mastectomy. The diagnosis of mastectomy is just the start. We had talked. There was a year from that time as you were preparing to complete at this part of the journey. It's not over overnight. The mastectomy, the double
vasectomy was the first. That was my cancer-free day, August 25th, 2020. After that, I had 5+ months of chemo. I had another 3 months or so of radiation, and then I had 2 reconstruction surgeries, and may have another one.
Watching you, the grace, in real time. So I'm going to give you your flowers while you're sitting in front of me. The grace, the courage. You have changed. You are fundamentally who I knew. That you're still the person who will take my notes on the set of a show and read them to make me better. But there is we are social media friends. We're friends in real life. And you began, for your own journey, being very open about your experience. You were on panels, you were having conversation. There was literally someone else in the world who I was talking to, and she shared a corporate leader as well. And I'm like, you've got to talk to Leslie. I've got to, and I called you and I said, will you talk? You're like, absolutely, I get it. You give her my information. But you still do. A daily prayer. Sometimes I'd see it show up on the social media at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and I began following those, and I began digesting, and sometimes I'll respond to you going, oh, yes, amen, amen. And something I've watched that you do, no matter how many, and sometimes a lot of us are in there, you will respond back to let us know that the connection is complete. And that sort of grace in a time where you should be only focused on you, where you can only be focused on you, and you made room to share your story, but to show your own growth. I told you this, it was one of the most impressive things I've seen in a human. You have been breathtaking to watch. I've learned so much, but there has to be on this journey moments where you're doing everything. You were anchored. We are watching and witnessing it and sharing the journey with you, and you've been so gracious to allow us to do that. But in those moments, there's got to be the valleys. What do you do when you find yourself there? Do you allow yourself to sit there? Or how do you handle them? How do you find peace in the valley, and how do you get out of the valley?
So one of the reasons why I share is because when I got diagnosed, the one thing that I heard from God was, this is not your story to share. Too often we're too quiet, and we prevent other women from understanding that breast cancer is not a death sentence. And I wanted everyone to understand that from me, the good parts and the bad parts. And so my husband never let me stay low. And like, I'm a fighter. Like, you can come at me.
I can vouch for it.
You can come at me, give me your best, and you might shut me back a little bit, but you ain't keeping me down.
It's like Della Reese in the movie. Oh, that's what you got.
Right,
okay.
that's it.
Yeah,
right.
Right. Okay.
I got 9 other toes.
Come
on with it. Read it. Right. So there were days when I just didn't feel well, and that's fine.
Good.
And I wanted to share those days with the world as well, because I didn't want to paint this picture that it was all glory. But when I tell you, one, I thank God for the pandemic, because I lost 25 pounds, and I think that's why I found what I found. And I think God was all in this. While I remember having a conversation with my doctor, because I had to stay in the hospital, and I was like, okay, so I don't stay in hospitals, and I don't want to. This is COVID. I know y'all need some kidneys or some body parts.
So you're in there controlling things still.
I was.
Okay, fair enough.
But it was like I needed everyone to understand that you can stand through all of this, and God literally had me have breast cancer in a pandemic so he could spend time with me. From every test I took, I remember telling Pastor Wright when I had to do my radiation, I had to hold my breath. And when you hold your breath, your heart sinks. And it's protecting your body from the rays. So your heart, God literally, I felt him literally like put his hand between my breast and my heart. And every time I went to chemo, it was just me and God. Like I couldn't bring my girlfriends, I couldn't bring my husband. It was me and God the whole year. And I did devotion almost every single day, and he walked with me. And there were days when I was, why me did come up.
Sure.
But why not me also did come up.
I was talking to my therapist, and I said to him, as strange as it seems, there is something about crises that clears the clutter in the air. And it's an inflection point. We can go in two directions. You chose to tap into, as I was listening to you, I'm like, it's the executive leadership. You went, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, we're going to do this. I want a team that looks like this, I want a team that looks like that. Because sometimes I think you've got to tell the universe and the world what your expectations are. And sometimes that's when it's easy, when it's a regular day. But when you're in real-time crises, to center yourself, to do those things, because in those moments, decisions are made impacting our life and the trajectory. So, and I know that that is God's hand, but you've got to do your part too, is what I'm getting to, and you did your
Faith
part.
without works is dead.
Amen. See, again, that's what I was trying to say. Leslie, I'm going to ask you one final question for this segment. For women and men out there listening who may have just been told or they're waiting for results, what encouragement, counsel, words would you give them?
It's not a death sentence.
And for those of us who put off the test because we don't want to, and there's too much going on, what would you say to?
Get the test.
Okay.
There is no healthcare, like God gave you this vessel.
Come on.
And it's your responsibility to take care of it. And I'd be the first to say, you know, my many years of candy corn and all kinds of sweets has not been the most productive.
Fair enough.
But I learned that from my dad. My dad actually had prostate cancer, and he found it early. My father, if he sneezes, he's going to the doctor and says, "What's wrong?" Atypical man.
Oh my.
But he valued healthcare, and because of that, so did I. So I tell, don't run from the news. I am living proof that not only can you have breast cancer and survive, I've had 2 promotions.
Mama.
I'm building a house. Like God said he wanted us to have life and life more abundantly. He didn't say there weren't going to be any challenges. But I look past those to push me through those days that are really hard.
I'm going to stop right there, or we will be talking all night. Leslie, my friend, an example of humanity and grace. Thank you for sitting with me in conversation and in community. We're not done yet. We usually do 3 for the road. I've had such a good time talking with Leslie. We're gonna come back and do a special edition of 3 for the road, which is gonna be 1. We'll be right back. Okay. You've got 30 seconds to give me an answer.
Okay.
But she's precise.
What's
Watch.
the question? You trying to make me concise.
You know what? You're right.
Okay.
You're right. Leslie, in a regular week, and any conversation with you ain't regular, I would ask 3 questions in this segment called 3 for the road. I'm going to ask you 1 question, and here it goes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Do you have any regrets?
None. None whatsoever. My journey is my journey. And I have learned from every stumble, every roadblock, every rock in the way. And I wouldn't trade my journey for anything. So no, I have no regrets.
Mama, I'm so grateful to know you. Thank you for letting us be on this journey with you. It is a part of the reminder to all of us how we're connected. And I think in these pandemics, when anyone had a right to turn in and focus on themselves, you leaned out and helped us, those of us who care about you, those of us who heard your story, to have this human experience. And I think now more than ever, we're craving that. So thank you so much, my friend. We'll have more conversations. And thank you, Chicago and beyond, for tuning in. I want to leave you with a final thought for the road, courtesy of Father Craig Scott. From every wound, there is a scar, and every scar tells a story that says, I survived. Until next time, take good care of you and each other. Good night. Oh, we just had church. I'm telling you, this sitting in this, these conversations.
That was a perfect ending.
Oh my God.